Welcome back to Tabletop Glory. My name is Graham Johnson, and today we're going to be working on this Resistance A-Wing fighter from Revell. Now, this is a snap-type model kit. It is meant for kids. However, as you can see, I've done a bit of work on it. Now, I haven't done anything crazy, and it still looks pretty darn good. I really like these snap-type kits because they're really great for adding little details to, either through 3D printing or traditional greeblies, and you can do a lot with them and make them into some really spectacular kits. In any case, we're not going to be doing anything too crazy with this, and I do plan to use it for some kind of diorama in the future, so keep an eye out for that. But for today, we're just going to be going ahead and painting it up to this standard, and again, we're not really doing much of a tutorial, but I will just kind of ramble through what I'm doing as it happens on screen. Hopefully you guys just like this kind of a video. We're kind of just doing a bit of a let's paint because I've been suffering from some burnout recently, and I just needed to work on something fun. Just kind of giving the model kit a bit of a once-over, catching any kind of egregious little sharp bits that might be sticking out from the molding process. Honestly, these kits tend to be pretty good. They're meant for kids to kind of put together, so they tend to be pretty decent about making sure that all the parts fit together. The only thing that was really egregious was the cockpit. There was a lot of flashing on that hinge joint, so it didn't quite close all the way. So if you are going to buy this for a kid, I do recommend that you go ahead and clean that up for them a little bit before you let them put this together. But honestly, that was really the only thing that you really needed a knife for, to kind of clean up and get things good to go. Other than that, it pretty much all went together fairly seamlessly. I put that with some air quotes because there is a bit at the end where I'll show where I had to use quite a bit of force to kind of get the last of this to fit together. I pulled up some quick reference images online for what I thought the uniform should look like. I wasn't going for screen accuracy, but I wanted to be able to sell the detail through the canopy window. So we're going to go ahead and paint the uniform in kind of like this olive drab green color. Now I am using Death World Forest from Games Workshop, but any kind of olive drab will work just fine. The gloves seem to be a mixture of whites and grays. I'm going to be leaving mine white, and the boots seem to be a mixture of blacks and grays. I end up leaving mine white for simplicity's sake, just to give me something to hold on to. Revell for these snap-type kits tends to use plastic that doesn't really take paint very well. You tend to have to treat the plastic a little bit. And one little hack I tend to find for that is to just spray the model all over with some Tester's Dull Coat or Tester's Gloss Coat, and then the paint has something to stick to after that. Washing the model doesn't really seem to help you. The plastic's just a little bit greasy. So I needed something to hold on to with this guy, so I just chose to hold on to the boots since I knew I was going to be putting paint pretty much everywhere else. Here we are using gunmetal gray. This is one of my favorite colors for doing kind of engine parts and things like that. And I use this on a few different other parts on the ship as well. Pretty much anywhere that I want a metallic finish, I use this as a base coat. It's really nice for metallics because you don't have to get perfect coverage to still get a good looking color. It also works really nicely with washes on top of that, as you'll see toward the end when I do a little bit of weathering. Now I end up doing way more work on these engines than I needed to do, but if I had wanted to cut open some holes for some access panels on this model kit, it would have worked out nice. I was just having fun, so honestly at the end of the day, whether it ever gets seen again or not, I had fun, so who cares. Now here I'm doing a heated metal effect on the engines. Now I have talked about this in other videos kind of loosely and not in any real detail, and that is because I'm planning to do a video in the future where I talk all about heated metal, plasma effects and things like that, whether it be for sci-fi or whatever, and doing engine bloom and all kinds of fun things like that. So that is coming. That's why I never really talk about it in any great detail, and that's why usually when I do it on camera I kind of cut the camera short and you guys never see all the steps. I know I've been teasing that for a long time coming, and it really is. I'm trying to get a nice collection of clips as well as a nice collection of parts to be able to make that video for you guys properly. Now comes the fun part of trying to get this all together. Sometimes this can be real hit or miss with some of these snap type model kits. Some of them go together real easy, some of them not so much. Some of these you really got to help your kids out with. I remember as a kid oftentimes having to ask my parents for help. Now these landing gear really don't want to stay in on their own. You kind of got to be careful not to bump them when you're putting all the different pieces together. Otherwise they do just kind of fall out of the model kit. And other than that, it takes a pretty considerable amount of force to push these two halves together. You'll kind of hear the model making all kinds of not so fun noises as I do so. Now we have these little rings that kind of hang off the end of the engines. Now in my mind these are going to get covered up with a lot of soot, or whatever the Star Wars equivalent is to soot. So I'm just going to be hitting the outsides of the rings with this gun metal to kind of make them match. And then I'm going to be painting the insides black. Now I'm going to be doing a lot of weathering when I go to actually do my diorama, and I'm going to be using a lot of charcoal and chalk dust and things like that to really grime up and soot up these engines. So when that happens, that's all going to blend in. So I'm not super concerned about the blending right now in this moment. I just need to get those colors in the right ballpark so that it's good to go when I make my diorama later. If you wanted to go ahead and blend this in now, if you're following along at home, I would consider using maybe some black wash or some Nuln oil or some kind of a dark grimy wash. There's a lot of really wonderful stuff out by Citadel, including stuff in the contrast paints. There's several grime colors that work really great for this sort of thing that you can just kind of slap on in 2 or 3 layers and it'll look just fine. Now, depending upon what type of scale modeler you are, this is probably going to be one of your favorite parts, and that is all of the little panel lining. Now, I am using a product called Panel Liner by Tamiya, and this thing is great. It wicks into all the little crevices and details, and it comes back up pretty easily. Once it dries, you can kind of just rub on it with your thumb, and the stuff on the surface comes up, and the stuff in the crack stays exactly where it needs to stay. Now, if you don't want to get this stuff all over your hands, because it is an enamel product and that is kind of bad for your health, you can use Q-tips and things like that. But I'm so clean with this product and I get so little on my hands that honestly I don't really worry about it. Probably should for as much as I paint, but I'm not really concerned. I am very neat and tidy, but safety first. Do as I say, not as I do. Please be careful when using enamel products. In any case, I'm going to kind of let this run for just a little bit because I know that you guys tend to kind of like watching this stuff just kind of do its magic. Now, if you don't have a product like Panel Liner, or you don't want to spend the money on a product like Panel Liner, you can get watercolor paint brushes that hold the watercolors in them, and you can fill them with black ink or a black wash that you can make with water and black paint, and it works really great for painting into these cracks and crevices. You're just going to need to do more than one coat. And like that, we're done. Smudgy cockpit included. Now, I should clean that up, but honestly, I'm going to save that for future me when I go to do the diorama. I haven't glued the canopy shut yet because I haven't decided on whether or not I'm going to have it open in the canopy or not, or in the diorama, I should say. If you are going to glue the canopy shut and you decide to use a product like super glue, you will fog the canopy. There really isn't any getting around that, and you will probably have to paint it. If you don't want it to fog, use a cement that is designed for that, whether you use plastic glue cement to glue it shut or whether you just use plain old white glue, like the stuff that we use for gluing down our terrain. That stuff works perfect for canopies and it doesn't fog. Also, it's better to use white glue because if you ever have to open the canopy later, it's super easy to break that seal and pop that back off, as opposed to if you use plastic glue where you're probably just going to break the canopy. In any case, guys, I hope you really enjoyed today's video, and I hope you're looking forward to the diorama that is going to come from this. I know I'm super excited, but I gotta find a few more 3D prints that I want to go with it. I found some really cool files online while searching through Thingiverse that should go with this and will work. I just gotta get the scaling right before I print them, and I gotta find a few more little details that I want to include to do some kind of like not a cockpit, but a hangar bay kind of diorama I think you guys might find really interesting. In any case, may your display case always be overfilled and your pile of shame never run empty. Until next time.